everyone, my name is Audrey Richards and I am running to represent Missouri's 7th District in Congress as an independent candidate. And today I want to talk about the IDEA Act. Anytime someone comes up to me at a booth, or basically anytime they come up to me, they end up asking me like, so what are your priorities? What is it that you want to accomplish? And one of my number one things I always talk about is education. And today the IDEA Act specifically is the Individuals with Disability Education Act. It was passed in 1973, and it's basically something that guarantees students with disabilities access to and the same opportunities that public school students without disabilities have. So we're just leveling the playing field, which sounds like a really good idea, and it is. It is basically guaranteeing certain civil rights to people, and those are really important. So what the IDEA Act does is it guarantees that every student with disabilities has what's called an IEP, or an individualized education plan. And that plan is basically a structure as to the goals that a student needs to meet that school year, and a dedicated plan as to how they're going to get there, and also how that student will continue to be involved in the general education curriculum. So you have a plan that gets to be followed, and it gives the student a sense of both structure and normalcy. So it's on the porch, man. So it's really important that students have access to these things. And then the IDEA Act also guarantees certain rights for parents and parental advocacy. So they have access to their students' school records, and then they also have what are called we're really high tech at the Audrey 2020 campaign, okay? Parent Training Information Centers, okay? And these are required to have at least one in every state, which, if you're the size of Texas, doesn't exactly do everybody a lot of good, but, every state is required to have at least one of these parent training information centers, and because a lot of states actually go above and beyond what the IDEA Act mandates. They have their own legislation, and they have specific things per school district, and all of these different needs that need to be met based on the state that you're in, not just the federal level. And so parents can go to these specific places and get a better understanding of how they can advocate for their child and what their child can expect to get out of the education system. And then, in addition to that, something that is really cool, you've got these PRCs, Parent Resource Centers, which are, Parent Resource Centers. Alright, and those are things, they're basically like the parent information centers, except these are very specific information for people who, parents and children who perhaps have a very limited English proficiency, or they have low-income families, or parents who themselves may actually have disabilities. They can go to these specific centers and sort of get more individualized, it's just a better way to serve people from those specific communities. Quality necessarily, just what you have access to, the sort of resources. I'm sorry, my super high-tech eraser is trying to blow away in the wind.
A few moments later.
You're probably wondering why I chose to talk about this specific thing today. Alright, in addition to being very passionate about the IDEA Act, one of the things that was recently passed, less than 2 weeks ago, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Package thing, whatever. Bunch of letters that mean you're gonna get $1,200 in the mail, hopefully, eventually, maybe. But this bill is hundreds of pages long or whatever, right? And included deep in that bill was this little specification that allows Secretary Betsy DeVos to make recommendations to Congress about cutting back certain things within the IDEA Act. And so I'm over here excuse me? What? How does this happen? Okay, the IDEA Act is essentially guaranteeing background noise, man, background noise. The IDEA Act is guaranteeing children in this country certain civil rights, okay? That's what it's doing. It ensures that every kid is going to get an equal education, regardless of their, learning ability level, okay? And so the idea that you can use this pandemic to make recommendations to roll back certain, parts of this bill is insane. Why would you do that? Why would you go back and say, hey, we're going to permanently change this without any actual debate or any sort of through line through Congress, how laws are supposed to be passed? Why would you include that in the CARES relief package? Why would you do that? It's because they don't care. They want an excuse to roll back certain things. They want an excuse to spend less money. And I understand totally. It's like, okay, school districts are having a rough enough time getting basic education out to kids, okay? Trust me, we live in Southwest Missouri. I understand, you know, even with internet access, it is so hard to ensure that everybody is still getting the same quality education. But you can't just insist on rolling back certain things because it's hard. You have to say, okay, we're going to work with school administrators and superintendents to ensure that the students who fall under the IDEA Act are still getting an education. And so the idea that you can just go on and say willy-nilly, we're going to roll back the requirements for the IEPs, the individual education plans. Maybe we don't need to do them this year. Maybe we don't need to evaluate quite as fast. And so you're basically taking these kids' education, right? And they have trouble learning in the regular environment anyway. And so now you're saying, okay, well, we just won't serve them for the rest of the school year. Well, that's a couple months. So you're disadvantaging them even further because they're just, like, technically for you different and harder to serve. It doesn't make any sense. It's not fair. And so the idea that you would be able to just willingly roll back this kind of thing, please, like, I'm over it. And so there's this really great quote here from somebody. It says, you're taking a temporary disadvantage and making it permanent because it will be hard to recoup that learning loss, right? Because now they're going to fall 2 months behind their classmates. Well, they're already farther behind their classmates because they have learning disabilities. So, like, geez, you're seriously hampering these kids' education, and I think we need to talk about that. And you need to keep an eye out for whatever Secretary DeVos recommends because it's important. It is important. And so that's why today I wanted to talk about the IDEA Act. So, thank you for getting through the whole message. Nick, the dog couldn't have waited like 10 more seconds. Oh man. Okay, well anyway guys, this is one of those one take days where